Okay, let's be honest for a second. How many of us have ever been curious about sex toys? I'm guessing a lot of you. But it's kind of one of those things people don't really talk about, you know?
It's like this weird taboo subject. Even though they're becoming more and more popular, there's still this hush-hush vibe around them.
Exactly. So we're diving deep into the essential guide to sex toys to help you navigate this world and figure out what's what.
Because let's be real, there's a ton of information out there. And it can be pretty overwhelming.
This deep dive is basically your cheat sheet to pleasure and self-discovery. No judgment, just honest information.
Yeah, it's like everyone deserves to feel good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of feeling good, one of the things that surprised me in this guide is that sex toys can actually be good for your health.
It sounds crazy, right? But there's actual science behind it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So, like, whenever we engage in any kind of sexual activity, our bodies release all these hormones like endorphins and oxytocin.
Endorphins. Those are the feel-good chemicals, right?
Yeah, they're like natural painkillers and mood boosters. And then there's oxytocin, which is sometimes called the cuddle hormone.
So basically, good vibes all around.
Pretty much. And the cool thing is, these hormones can have a ripple effect on your overall well-being.
Like, what kind of a hex are we talking about here?
Well, studies have shown that they can reduce stress, help you sleep better, even boost your immune system. And get this, it applies whether you're flying solo or having fun with a partner.
Whoa, that's amazing. So choosing a sex toy is practically an act of self-care. Sign me up.
That's a great way to look at it.
But let's be real, for a lot of people, even the thought of buying a sex toy is like super intimidating.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's still so much stigma around it. Years and years of like societal taboos and just bad information.
It's almost like we're conditioned to think that pleasure is somehow wrong, especially for women, which is so messed up.
Totally. And the book really tries to challenge that notion. It encourages you to like embrace your sexuality without judgment.
Yeah, it's all about owning your pleasure and not feeling ashamed of it.
It's about self-love and acceptance, really.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential health benefits and tackled the whole embarrassment thing. But honestly, the world of sex toys can be kind of overwhelming.
It's like, where do you even start? There's so many different types and shapes and sizes. It's a lot.
That's where this guide comes in handy. It breaks down all the different categories like vibrators, dildos, massagers, and explains what they're for.
And it gets pretty specific, which I appreciate.
Oh, I bet.
Like, it even talks about the materials used in sex toys, which is super important.
Speaking of materials, I saw something in the book about toxic vibrators. That sounds a little scary. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, so some older or cheaper toys might be made with materials that contain phthalates.
Phthalates, okay. And those are bad because...
They're chemicals that can, like, leach into your body over time, and they've been linked to some health issues, so you definitely want to avoid those.
Got it. So what should people look for instead?
Always go for toys made from body-safe materials. Silicone, stainless steel, glass.
Okay, so it's all about being a smart shopper. You don't want to skimp on quality when it comes to this stuff.
Definitely not. Your health and pleasure are worth the investment.
Agreed. All right, so we've covered some basics. Potential health benefits, getting over that initial awkwardness, and making sure you choose toys made with safe materials. But I'm sure there are still folks out there feeling kind of lost, you know?
Totally normal.
So let's take a deep breath and jump into the specifics. We're about to unlock a whole new world of pleasure and self-discovery. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of sex toys. Okay, so we've talked about the basics, but now let's get into the actual toys.
Yeah, let's unpack this. It's kind of crazy how much is out there.
It can be super overwhelming. Where do you even begin?
Well, let's start with some of the most common types, like vibrators are a big one, right?
Okay, vibrators, those are the ones with, the buzzing and all that.
Yeah, exactly. They come in all shapes and sizes. Some are really sleek and simple. Others are more adventurous looking. But the key thing is the motor, which creates those vibrations that, well, stimulate things.
Stimulate things. Got it. What about dildos?
Dildos are interesting because I feel like they often get this, like, comedic treatment in movies and stuff.
Absolutely. It's like they're always the punchline of a joke.
But actually, they're super versatile. You can use them for both internal and external stimulation.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about one thing.
Nope. They come in tons of different sizes and shapes and materials. Some are designed to, like, mimic the feel of a penis. Others are more about hitting specific pleasure points.
Speaking of specific pleasure points, the ebook mentions something called the G-spot.
Ah, yes. The G-spot. It's this super sensitive area on the front wall of the vagina.
Okay, and stimulating it does what exactly?
Well, it can lead to some pretty intense orgasms. Some people even experience full-body orgasms from G-spot stimulation.
Wow. Okay, so how do you, like, find it?
Well, it's usually located about 2 or 3 inches in. And some dildos, especially ones with a curved shape, are designed to help you target it.
It seems like there's a real art to choosing the right toy. What are some things people should keep in mind when making a decision?
Honestly, the most important thing is to listen to your body and figure out what feels good for you. Everyone is different.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. Think about the kind of sensations you enjoy. Do you like intense vibration, gentle pressure, something in between?
And it's not just about the type of toy, right? The material matters too.
Big time. We talked about safe materials earlier, but there's also the texture and feel to consider. Silicone is a popular choice because it's body safe, hypoallergenic, and it comes in all sorts of textures.
Like what kind of textures?
You can get smooth and silky silicone or ribbed or textured. It really depends on what you're looking for.
This is way more complicated than I thought. It's like a whole science.
It kind of is, but that's what makes it so interesting. It's about finding a toy that feels good against your skin, is easy to clean, and provides the sensations you want.
Makes sense. Now, the guide also mentioned toys that are specifically designed for couples.
Oh, yeah.
So is that more about just like sharing the experience, or are there other benefits?
It can be both. Some couples use toys together to, like, enhance their intimacy and explore new things as a team. Others might find that a toy helps them with certain challenges.
Challenges like?
Well, like maybe there's a difference in libido or desire. A toy can help bridge that gap and make sure everyone is having a good time.
So it's like a tool for communication and exploration within the relationship.
Exactly. It can open up a whole new level of playfulness and intimacy.
And it can help partners learn more about each other's bodies and what they enjoy.
Absolutely. So it's not just about the physical sensations, it's about the emotional connection too.
That's awesome. Okay, let's talk about actually using these toys. Any tips or tricks? Does the guide recommend any specific techniques?
Well, the main message is that there's no right way to use a sex toy. It's all about finding what feels good for you.
So, like, experiment and have fun with it.
Exactly. Play around with different positions, speeds, pressures, see what feels good,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to try new things.
I love that. It's about taking ownership of your pleasure and not feeling like you have to do things a certain way.
Exactly. And the guide does offer some tips on things like using lube, exploring different erogenous zones.
Erogenous zones.
Yeah.
Fancy. Okay, so what about the cleaning part? That's not really something people talk about openly.
Yeah, it can be kind of awkward, but hygiene is super important.
Makes sense. So any tips for keeping things clean?
Most silicone toys are waterproof, so you can just wash them with soap and water.
Ah.
You can even boil them for a deeper clean.
Okay, good to know. What about other materials?
Always follow the manufacturer's instructions
Mm-hmm.
and never, ever share toys without cleaning them properly.
Yeah.
Like, ever.
Got it. So let's say someone's feeling brave and ready to buy their first toy. Any advice on navigating the world of online shops or adult stores?
Do your research. Read reviews, check out customer testimonials, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, it's like buying anything else online. You want to make sure you're getting a quality product. But what if someone's nervous about going into an actual adult store?
I get it. It can be intimidating. But honestly, most adult stores have really helpful staff who are there to answer your questions. They've seen it all, and they're not there to judge.
It's about finding a space where you feel comfortable and supported. And it's about, like, changing the narrative in your head. It's not about being ashamed. It's about taking control of your pleasure.
It's about empowerment.
Hmm.
And sometimes stepping outside of your comfort zone can be really rewarding.
Love that. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's still so much more to talk about. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore the emotional and relational side of using sex toys and how they can impact your relationships and self-love. Welcome back to our deep dive.
So we've talked about, like, the nuts and bolts of sex toys, but I want to talk about something else now. The emotional side of things. Yeah, it's not just about the physical sensations, right? There's a whole other layer there.
Totally. And one thing that really stood out to me in the ebook was, like, how sex toys can actually make relationships more intimate.
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, because some people think, oh, if you need a toy, then something's missing.
Right. But that's so not true. It's not about replacing anything. It's about adding a new dimension to your intimacy.
So it's more about, like, spicing things up.
Exactly. It can help couples break out of those routines and experiment and just, communicate more openly about what they want.
The book also talks about how important communication is when you, like, bring toys into the bedroom. Why is that so important?
Well, communication is key in
Yeah.
any relationship, right?
Right.
But especially when it comes to sex. Talking about your desires, your boundaries, what you're comfortable with, it builds trust.
It's about creating a safe space to explore together.
Exactly. And sometimes using a toy can actually make those conversations easier.
Yeah.
If you're struggling to find the right words.
It's like showing instead of telling, almost.
Yeah. It could be a way to, like, physically express your desires.
Okay, so that's for couples. But what about folks who are single? Or, exploring on their own?
Well, that's where self-pleasure comes in. Using a sex toy solo can be an amazing way to, like, get to know your own body, figure out what you enjoy, no judgment, no pressure.
It's all about you.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about self-love and honoring your needs.
Mm.
And that self-awareness can actually lead to healthier relationships down the line.
Because you know yourself better.
Right.
So if someone's listening and thinking like, okay, this all sounds great, but I'm still a little scared, what advice would you give them?
Start small. Be gentle with yourself. And don't be afraid to experiment. There's a whole world of pleasure out there. Just got to find what works for you.
And remember, there's no rush. It's a journey. Enjoy it.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Hopefully everyone's feeling a little more informed and maybe a little more adventurous. Definitely. I hope we've demystified things a bit, made it feel less taboo.
If you want more info, definitely check out the ebook, The Essential Guide to Sex Toys. It's a great resource.
It is. And it's a good reminder that pleasure is a natural part of life.
So on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought. How can embracing pleasure and exploring your sexuality lead to a more fulfilling life?
It's a question worth asking yourself.
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.